And in your opinion, Dr. Shafer, is there any factual scenario supported by the data and the evidence in this case that explains the femoral blood levels of propofol other than by IV administration as you have testified to and demonstrated for the jury?
I have not been able to create such a scenario except by the use of an infusion and the death of Michael Jackson during the infusion. That was the only scenario that I was able to create that was consistent with the femoral blood levels.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. This will be recross-examination by the defense. Mr. Chernoff. You may.
I do have one chart, Your Honor, one simulation. May this be marked People's 223 for identification?
It is.
Dr. Shafer, regarding lorazepam, did you in fact do a simulation involving lorazepam IV administration, again, as correctly noted by defense counsel, showing administration not starting until about 1:30 in the morning on June 25th, 2009?
Yes, I did.
And a scenario that would work is, just as an example, because again, you don't have medical records, correct?
That is correct.
9 doses via IV of 4 milligrams each, starting at 1:30, gets you the femoral lorazepam levels at the estimated time of death around noon.
That is correct.
And that's what's demonstrated here on People's 223?
That is correct.
Thank you, Doctor. Nothing further.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. Mr. Chernoff, this will be recross-exam.
Doctor, I assume the last simulation that was provided you did this weekend?
Yes, at about 9 o'clock, about 10 o'clock last night. That is correct.
Based on the questioning that I asked you, you realized, hey, maybe I'll do another simulation, right?
That's correct.
And I believe the response by Mr. Walgren was this would work, right? Know what he said? This would work.
I would have to ask it be read back to me.
Let me ask you a different question.
Yes, sir.
The extraordinary claim that you made in this case, it's certainly not extraordinary that Michael Jackson had to have received more propofol than what Dr. Murray said he gave, right? That's not extraordinary, is it?
Correct.
That's correct. In fact, based on what Dr. Murray gave and based on what he told the police, you wouldn't even expect any kind of cardiorespiratory event whatsoever, right?
As was to an incomplete hypothetical, are we assuming other drugs were given, or
The objection sustained. It may assume facts not in evidence as well. The answer is stricken disregard. Re-ask, Mr. Chernoff.
You believe that more propofol was administered into Michael Jackson at some point, don't you?
Yes, I do.
All right. The extraordinary claim, however, that you made was 100 milliliter infusion based on the demonstration that you provided to this jury. Wouldn't you agree that that's extraordinary?
it was based on the data?
Would you agree that that's an extraordinary claim, the demonstration that you gave to the jury and said occurred in this case?
Overruled.
Misstates the testimony.
You may answer it and explain.
It's an ordinary claim.
Well, now we've discovered. Well, let's look at the IV that you said was used for an infusion. Okay, the IV setup.
Misstates the testimony.
Sustained.
The IV setup that you said was used for an infusion, you demonstrated for the jury that this particular IV set was used, and you said it was ordered from Suncoast. Do you remember saying that?
Objection misstates the testimony. Said it was
It
a
doesn't
possibility.
misstate that. Okay.
Member?
Okay.
Wait a
Can we
minute.
approach that?
No. I'm going to sustain the objection. Re-ask the question. Thank you.
Well, then I'm going to have to do it over again. Can I see the exhibits? Opening this up. This is going to be People's Exhibit 80. Judge, I'm opening.
Okay?
That's fine. I think it's a sealed package. Oh, that's fine.
witness.
Sure.
This is what you said to the jury last week was used by Conrad Murray to infuse propofol. Right?
No, that misstates my testimony.
All right. Was this one of the IV setups that you showed? Yes?
I believe so, yes.
Is this the IV setup that you said was purchased from Suncoast?
Yes.
Is this the IV setup you said was used for an infusion pump? Designed for an infusion pump?
Testimony that it was used for an infusion
Is
pump.
it designed for an infusion
Just a moment,
pump?
please.
It is designed
Wait
for...
a minute. Please. Please, please, please. What's the objection?
Misstates the testimony that he said it was used with an infusion pump.
Sustained. The answer stricken. Disregard. Re-ask.
Is this designed? Is this designed for...
Wait a minute. Please, don't interject.
It's an objection. It was Seacoast, not Suncoast. So the
Thank you.
record's clear.
All right. Seacoast. Re-ask, please.
Is that what misrepresented your testimony, that was Seacoast and not Suncoast? Doctor? Let me ask you. This is designed for infusion pumps, right?
That is correct.
Did you use this to demonstrate an infusion of the propofol?
Yes, I did.
Did you use it to demonstrate an infusion of a propofol bottle, a vial?
Yes, I did.
Now you're saying that this was not used.
Objection misstates.
Is that right?
I don't know...
Overruled.
I don't know what was used. I wasn't there.
Well, now what you're saying is that defense W, I'm opening up. Now what you're saying is that defense WW, which is the Excel administration site, IV setup, was vented, right?
Objection. This testimony is regarding People's 157.
May I see it?
Just a moment, please. The objection is sustained. I don't believe the witness is referring to that, so you don't have to answer anything. You can re-ask your question, please.
I'm opening up 150 site.
All right, we've got a lot of exhibits that have been opened. We need to put them back, though, when you're done using them, so we don't get them confused.
Objection. There's no question.
Well, the witness is being asked to look at something. Mr. Chernoff's indicating he's opening up something. I want something replaced, though, so we don't
Can we
have...
get... Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor. There's now 3 sets laying out here.
Mr. Chernoff, I don't know if you're through with any of the materials, but since they're exhibits, we need them replaced.
Well, I'm not done asking questions about it, Judge.
Okay, let's just make clear we don't want them confused. Go ahead.
I'll
You're
try to
making reference to WW now?
Let me replace what is in your hand, Doctor, with People's 157. This is identified as the exact type of IV setup. In fact, this is the IV setup that was found at the scene. Is that right?
That is correct.
This is the Excel IV setup.
That is correct.
And this Excel IV setup is vented.
Yes, this is the vent port right here.
In the analysis that you made, you referred to People's 80 as an IV that was vented, right?
Correct.
And that was used to infuse propofol into Michael Jackson.
Objection. Misstates the testimony.
I believe
Overruled.
my testimony was very clear that an vented set had to be used. And it was my belief, because I had not yet examined this, but based upon the fact that the Seacoast documentation did not say vented, it was my belief prior to this morning that there was no vent, but there is a vent. It's very clear. But my testimony was to the need for a vented set.
All right, Mr. Chernoff, you've got all sorts of materials lying on top of each other at the council table. We need the materials placed in their respective envelopes, please. So which are you putting in first?
I'm not putting anything in, Judge. I'm organizing it so we don't get confused.
Well,
Is there something you'd like me to do? Would you like to put it away and take it out again?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here.
I'm putting People's 157 in a bag, Judge. Right now. I'm putting People's 80 in a bag, small bag. And putting it in a large bag, marked as People's 80. All right?
Mr. Walgren?
I observe that.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm taking People's 157 out again Okay? And I'm also opening up People's 156. Okay? And I'm reaching in and I'm pulling out an IV bag. People's 157 was found, as you know, inserted into an IV bag, right?
Objection. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Do you know whether it was?
Overruled.
Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I would want to go back and look at the report. If you will hand me the report, I'm happy to look back at that.
All right. Let me ask you a very simple question. Could Dr. Murray or anybody in that room have taken People's 157 and stuck it into a propofol bottle and drained it through an IV? Yes or no?
Is it mechanically capable? Objection. B. Is it mechanically capable of doing that? What?
Overruled. You may answer the question if you understand it.
Well, I do understand the question, but are you asking me if that's consistent with the evidence, or is it just physically
I'm
possible
asking
to
you,
do it?
Is it possible for him to have done that?
It is physically possible to remove that and insert it into a bottle of propofol. That would be physically possible.
He would have opened the vent, stuck it in, and it could have drained. It's physically possible.
It's physically possible.
So Dr. Murray could have done that, but you now know, or you agree with me, that the evidence shows that there was no propofol in this line whatsoever.
That's correct.
So physically, Dr. Murray could have taken this line out of an IV bag, and if he wanted to run an infusion, could have just simply put it in a bottle. Physically.
Physically, yes.
Tell us what's going where, Mr. Chernoff.
Putting 157 back into 157. I'm putting 156 back in 156. All right. Now it appears that your testimony is, Doctor, that your new theory is that there was actually another Excel line at the scene?
It's not a new theory at all. My demonstration was of two IV lines with the requirement that the IV line attached to the bottle is vented. That was my demonstration. That hasn't actually changed at all.
Well, but is your new theory that that particular IV line, which is recognized as People's 80, was no longer used, and that an Excel was used?
I wasn't there. I don't know which one. I just know a vented set was used.
Well, that's true. You weren't there.
Yeah. Fact.
Is the answer yes?
The answer is yes. I was not there.
Everything else is stricken. Disregard.
Doctor, on Thursday, or the day that you came up with this demonstration, were you
Organization came up with, the people asked him to demonstrate it.
Just a moment. It's argumentative, sustained. Re-ask.
when the people first approached you to ask you to demonstrate, were you intending to demonstrate the cut IV bag at that time, or were you intending to demonstrate something else?
Overruled. Do you understand it?
Yes.
You may answer.
I was intending to demonstrate the setup for a intravenous infusion. The primary purpose is because the plumbing is not at all obvious to a non-medical person. The need for two lines, one line being the saline line and one line being the propofol line.
Doctor, my question is this. When Mr. Walgren approached you and popped open the tab on the propofol bottle, which was marked as People's 30, were you planning to demonstrate that as a scenario in this case?
Objection. Improper. I was asking the questions of the doctor. He was responding to my questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You may answer.
I don't understand the question. First
Okay. I don't understand the question. Is the answer everything else is stricken? You may re-ask it.
You have demonstrated for this jury a propofol bottle propped up in a bag, an IV bag, correct?
That is correct.
Were you planning to make any other demonstration of any other possible scenario?
Overruled.
My scenario, can you tell me what you mean by the word scenario? I was trying to demonstrate primarily plumbing.
Were you going to demonstrate to the jury another way for that propofol bottle to have infused propofol through that line? Were you, let me be more specific.
Please.
Were you about to demonstrate for the jury that that propofol bottle was going to hang on that IV stand?
Whether or not it hung on the IV stand was irrelevant to my demonstration. I truly cared neither way.
Were you going to demonstrate that to him?
Objection, speculation. He was
Sustained.
For
You don't have to answer it. Partial answer stricken. Disregarded.
I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chernoff. Anything on redirect, Mr. Walgren?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. May Dr. Shafer step down, subject to recall, Mr. Walgren?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chernoff?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Shafer, I want to thank you for your testimony. Sir, please don't discuss your testimony or the facts of the case with any other witness until we finish the trial. And while you may step down and leave, you are to remain on call, which means you're subject to recall up until the end of the trial. Is that all right?
that is right. Yes,
Thank
Your
you,
Honor.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. May I see counsel? Thank you. Mr. Waldman, do the people intend on calling any, any other witnesses in this case?
No, Your Honor.
What is the status of the people's case?
Your Honor, at this time, subject to receipt of the remaining exhibits, I believe it's People's 214 through People's 223, subject to their receipt into evidence, the people are prepared and would ask to rest at this time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've conferred with counsel, and you know you're receiving in evidence People's 1 through People's 213. We're going to be discussing 214 through 223 to determine what, if any, of those exhibits will be received in evidence. Counsel need just a few minutes before we go to any defense case, and so rather than keep you just hanging here while we discuss the matter at sidebar, we're just going to excuse you for a few more moments. To the Klondike of the Superior Court back there, I hope it's a little warmer, and again, I apologize. Please remember all the admonishments. It shouldn't be more than a few minutes. Thanks for your patience.